boys and girls. We are going to take a break from the quick plot review charts and move on to the next part of your reading packet, which is called Find the Theme. So I want you to, in your binders, you're going to find the theme where it starts with a 1 at the top. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be splitting this into 2 days. On the first day, we are going to be reading passages 1 through 8. So if it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. After we read those, we are also going to be answering some questions about those 8. Now, the questions are also in your reading packet, but they are at the end of all 16 of these. So you're going to have to get yourself a little bit organized in finding where the answer sheet is for the different cards. So I'm just going to give you an example of how we would start doing this. So I'm going to read passage number 1. It's called The Recital. Kara chose a difficult piece to play for the piano recital. Her teacher advised her to select an easier one, but Kara knew she could do it. Kara practiced every day after school. When her friends called to see if she could play, Kara told them that she couldn't and continued to practice. Even with all that practicing, a week before the recital, Kara still could not play the piece without making mistakes. Kara thought about giving up and switching to an easier piece, but instead she decided to double her practice time. The night of the recital arrived. Kara was the last student to play. As she walked onto the stage to take her place at the piano, she remembered the long hours she had spent practicing. Kara began to play. Her hands danced across the keyboard. She knew the piece so well. When the final note faded, the room erupted into applause. She had played the piece perfectly. So I've read the first passage. Now I'm going to flip back to where the questions are, because there's a question about passage number 1 that I want to answer while it's fresh in my mind. It says, circle the theme for each card. So for card number 1, the recital that we just read, it gives us 3 choices. What do you think that the theme or message of this story was? A, it takes a lot of practice to play the piano. B, Kara practiced a lot and did well. Or C, persistence pays off. Now, remember, the theme of a story means like, what is the lesson that the author is trying to teach? And in this passage, it's all about persistence, which means not giving up. Even though Kara wanted to give up many times, she stuck to it and ended up having a perfect piece at her recital. So for card number 1, the lesson that the author was trying to teach is C, persistence pays off. Now, are the other things true? It takes a lot of time to practice the piano to play well. Yeah, that's true. Did Kara practice a lot and do well? Yes, that's true, but they're not a lesson that the author wants the reader to learn. Let's try one more of those. Number 2 is called Kevin's Book Report. Kevin wasn't worried about his book report. He had 3 whole weeks to get it done. There was no reason to get started right away, especially when he had just gotten a new video game. The next day, Kevin thought about going to the library to pick out a book for his book report, but decided to play with his friends instead. He could go to the library on the weekend instead. The weekend came, and rather than go to the library, Kevin spent the whole weekend at his cousin's farm. He didn't go to the library the next week either. There was always something fun to do instead. 2 weeks passed, and Kevin still hadn't picked out a book. By the time he finally got to the library, there was not enough time to read the book and write the report. Kevin tried to write the report without reading the whole book, but it did not go very well. Kevin failed the assignment. Now we're going to go back to that last page in this section and go to number 2. What is the theme for this card? A, schoolwork is more important than playing. B, don't put things off until the last minute. Or C, Kevin should have done his book report first. So think in your head, what do you think would be a message that the author was trying to get readers to learn? Think if you pick A, B, or C. If you picked B, you are correct. Don't put things off till the last minute. That is what the author wants kids to learn. So you are going to do that same thing for numbers 3 through 8. Then you stop for today. The rest of the cards we are going to do tomorrow. Okay, let me know if you have any questions. Do your best.